Hello, listeners. I hope everyone's doing well this week. After last week's episode, I've received a bunch of emails, so I'll try to answer some of them this week. If you missed last week's episode, go check it out. The short of it is that there are only 4 more episodes where I'm going to be the host of this show. For the long of it, go check out last week's episode. Okay, on to the questions. Good day. Thank you for the show. My question is, can you give us your thoughts on a workout app, Jefit? Thank you, Brian. Hi, Brian. So, it's going to be really hard for me to give any really good feedback on that particular app. The reason being that to do so, I'd need to use the app. It's mostly a paid app, and it's behind a paywall. So I can't really explore more really than their marketing blurb and their free side. However, based on that, here are my thoughts. From what I can see, it looks like a user can select a bunch of exercises from their exercise library and put them together into a workout to do. I usually think that the best way to test something is to attack it. And I usually attack things on the grounds of absurdity. Ask my professors. I have written a bunch of essays that were absolutely ridiculous. The thinking being that if I could use, let's say, a particular moral theory to justify something, let's say the slave trade, that was an essay I wrote, or evil robot overlords, also an essay I have written, we can say for sure that evil overlords and slave trade are both wrong. But if I could justify it using a certain moral theory, then I can, pretty much then say that moral theory is ridiculous. So the plan here is use the workout builder on that app to see if I can create the most ridiculous workout I possibly can, which makes 0 sense and would lead to overtraining and maybe even injury. If I can do that, then I can say this app is useless. So, started my planned workout in the app with a spicy little superset of heavy bench presses, heavy deadlifts, and heavy squats. 10 sets of each, with only 10 seconds of rest in between, 10 sets of 50 bench presses, 10 sets of 100 deadlifts, and because I really want some leg gains, 10 sets of 900 reps on the squat. The app had no problem at all letting me create that workout, didn't offer any suggestion at all that it might actually be completely stupid, and didn't give me any advice. Therefore, I have to conclude that this app would be about as useful when it comes to planning a workout is simply writing a bunch of exercises on post-it notes, sticking them to a dartboard, wearing a blindfold, and throwing darts at it. The problem with build-it-yourself training apps is that they make the assumption that the person building the training knows something about muscle groups, what exercises work those muscle groups, what an appropriate volume would be, an appropriate loading, and appropriate recovery looks like. I would argue that most people have no clue what to do at the gym, and giving them a database of 1,400 exercises won't make things any easier. People should have a database of 5 exercises: squat, bench, military press, deadlift, pull-ups. Now, I've used this analogy before, but I often see these apps and the gyms and coaches themselves as having a lot in common with the TV show Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. And this particular app reminds me of an episode where Chef Ramsay goes to an Indian restaurant in Nottingham in England called the Curry Lounge. The gimmick in this restaurant, which was losing $20,000 a month, was the menu's DIY do-it-yourself curry. Diners could select from a bunch of options. And by the way, it's just come into my mind that I think I've had a listener email me whose son was maybe going to school in Nottingham, and that seemed to suggest to me they might be from that part of the country. If you've been to the Curry Lounge, send me an email. I'd be very interested. So anyway, this This restaurant had a DIY curry, and diners could select from a bunch of options, meaning there were actually hundreds of variations of the dishes. Gordon blindfolded the owner and made him taste the different curries. And the owner couldn't tell the difference between the curries from tasting them. And the reason for this is that those hundreds of different curries were actually just made from 3 base sauces. The same thing goes for training. There are a few basic irreducible movements: squatting, bending, pushing, pulling, and gait, G-A-I-T, which is walking, running, or lunges. And that's really about it. You could probably throw core in there. Everything else is just a variation of those things. So this app doesn't have 1,400 movements in it. It has 1,400 variations of 4 or 5 movements. It's just confusing, it's not needed, and it's just trying to be too clever. So although I can't see the whole app because I'd need to pay to do that, the fact that it would actually let me create a workout with 9,000 squats in it means it's a hard pass for me. Next question. Hi, Kevin. I'm a 54-year-old guy, I'd say, solid muscular in build, 90 kilo and 172 centimeters. Not bodybuilder material, but heavy. Dude, I'm 90 kilo. Don't start with that being heavy. You're going to make me feel like I need to lose some weight as well. I enjoy adventure racing, mountain biking, kayaking, and running. Normally, I wouldn't include running in that list. However, last November, I tore some ligaments in my ankle and wasn't able to run for some time and found myself missing it. Okay. In a week, I'll go to the local gym 3 times where we do functional training, normally with specific workouts, a good mix of movement, weights, and cardio. I also try to go 3 times a week for a custom program made for me by a physio to work on bits I've injured over the years. In addition, I run at least twice a week, ride my mountain bike at least twice a week, trying to get more paddling in. I also want to add swimming as I have access to a pool. Basically, it's normally about 2 workouts of some form a day and a long, easy one on the weekend. As I mentioned, last November, I did a 12-hour adventure race where I rolled my ankle badly in the first 30 minutes. It was incredibly painful, but did settle down. Yep, that's because your body releases chemicals when you injure yourself. I continued for another 10 hours. We actually finished early. Well done. Turns out I'd torn a few ligaments and completely ruptured 2, hence not really hurting too much. The damage was done. Now, I should point out here, I'm not as silly as that sounds. After that first run leg was a ride leg, then a kayak leg, then another run and ride. It was all calculated. I'd see how it went, and if it was painful, I'd stop. Naturally, I went to see the doctor the week after, and she asked me the dreaded question: do you think maybe it's time you slowed down a bit? Maybe do lower impact sports? So I thought I'd ask you the same question. When do you think it's time to slow down? I've always just thought the answer is in order: when I can't, when it's more work than fun, or when I'm spending more time recovering than playing the sport. It would be good to get your take on that. Well, I think you're always spending more time recovering than playing the sport, right? Because you're going to be recovering maybe 22 hours of a 24-hour day. But I know what you mean. It would be good to get your take on it, and particularly if there's something I'm missing, like running after 60 at this weight will mean I can't walk by the time I'm 70. Which also makes me wonder, as a supplementary question, do you think leading into older age I should adjust my training, less strength, more endurance to muscle down? I'd always thought it would be good to hang on to as much of it for as long as I can. You're correct. But should I change my workouts leading into older age to perhaps be more reps with lower total weight, that sort of thing? Cheers. Once again, thanks for doing the show. It's been good. Thank you. It's been good for me too, irrespective of my moaning sometimes to the contrary. All right. Anyway, Chris, thank you for the email. So just to clarify all of this, number 1, you currently go to the gym 3 times a week to do functional training. Number 2, you go to the gym 3 times a week to do a physio program. Number 3, you run twice a week. Number 4, you ride your bike twice a week. Number 5, you go paddling. Number 6, you want to add swimming. I also assume you have a job, so you don't just do all that, eat carbohydrate, and go to sleep for the rest of the day. Therefore, I would say that is a very significant training volume. But let's look at the questions you've asked me. So the doctor asked you about slowing down, playing lower impact sports. What do I think? I don't think you need to slow down. But I do think you could consider taking the machine out of the garage less often. I just can't see anything here right now than a scenario other than eventually the wheels fall off. It looks to me that your priority, or at least the thing you enjoy doing the most, is the adventure racing and training for the components that facilitate you being better at that. I'd focus on that. My opinion about functional training is as follows: that what is functional in terms of training is what you do in your training that allows the expression of a particular function. In other words, if you go to a functional fitness facility, do box jumps, kettlebell swings, muscle ups, snatches, and so on, it's not functional unless that meets your function. Could be a waste of your time. Because your particular function is to be better at adventure racing. I haven't actually ever been on a racing adventure, but I can imagine that there are no barbell snatches and no box jumps during an adventure race. Therefore, I would argue that those things have no function for you. So I would be wary of this whole functional fitness thing that you're doing. I would argue that the best thing for you to do is a basic structural strength program. And that will also be very useful for you because as we age, loss of strength is a more reliable predictor of mortality than loss of VO2 max. Since you already go to the gym 3 times a week to do your physio stuff, I would just make one of those physio days a squat day, one of them a pressing day, and one of them a deadlifting day, because you're already there anyway. And this will free up the 3 times that you go to do that functional stuff. And you can either use that time to do something truly functional, i.e. something that is related to directly improving your performance at adventure racing, or just add in, more rest time. In terms of, as we get older, reducing strength training and circling in more endurance stuff and down muscling yourself, the data would definitely say that strength training is more impactful on aging than aerobic work. It doesn't mean I think aerobic work shouldn't be in there, simply that training has a greater impact on the aging phenotype. In spite of the reputation that it has, running is beneficial. Impact is a great way to strengthen bones and stimulate the growth of cartilage and can protect against osteoarthritis. Do some runners develop knee problems? Yes. Do all knee problems in running come from the running itself? No. So to summarize, I would look at what you think your main training purpose is, remove all of the things that do not push the needle in that direction, and now use the time that you have gained from removing the useless parts to do more of what pushes the needle in the direction you want, or do more recovery. Thank you for your email. Now, with 4 weeks left, if you have also been dying to ask me a question in the last 2.5 years, now's your chance. I would also like to remind everyone that whilst I'm studying hard at university, I actually pay for my studies with remote coaching clients. So if you have been looking for a coach, and by all accounts, I'm quite good at it, then please get in touch. I would love to help you reach goals, and it would also be a great way for you to support me in growing my brain to epic and grotesque proportions. So please email me. Now, normally I'm going to say email me at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com, but in case you may want to reach out to me, you can also follow my Instagram, which is Kevin Don, just like my name, except someone else has that account, which was very rude of them. So it's Kevin with 3 N's. It's Kevin Don. You can also email me on my own email, which is coach@kevindon.com. I do have a website, but it's currently not in action because I'm having an identity crisis about whether or not I want to post things there about training or about philosophy. So anyway, coach@kevindon.com. My Instagram is KevinDon with 3 N's in the Kevin. Like I said, it's private, but if you request it and you're not one of my mortal enemies, then I will approve the follow request. Love to hear from everyone. I'd love for people to stay in touch. And yeah, any email questions, send them in. Just to remind you, Get Fit Guy is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchins, Brandon Getchus, who's the director of podcasts, Davina Tomlin, and me, Kevin Don, for the next 4 weeks. If you have a question, voicemail me, 510-353-3104. Email me, getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. For more information, visit quickanddirtytips.com or visit the show notes in your podcast app. Bye.